Hi, my name is Laurence. I help women gain some self-awareness and self-love in order to become the best version of themselves and to find some more fulfilling relationships. If that resonates with you, well, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Because of societal standards that are deeply ingrained into our mind, it is now more important than ever to be able to be more conscious, self-conscious, and also to set some boundaries and standards in our lives. A lot of women falls into a societal standard trap where society is basically telling them that if you express your needs, you are too needy or you're too demanding. So because of that, a lot of women are refraining from expressing their needs to their partner, and that ultimately leads to a lot of problems in relationships. You should never have to hide your wishes and mask your discontent. That is why in this video we will be exploring how to acknowledge your needs and express them effectively to others, and also how to set some boundaries and standards. Unfortunately, nowadays, it is more accepted to maintain this self-sufficient, cool facade, but trust me, in the long run, this will not serve you. In fact, it is even harmful because you are training someone to treat you in the wrong way because you're not expressing your needs to them. It is important to know what your needs are, because if you end up conceding on them, you're signaling to your partner that your emotions and what you want does not matter. And then your partner will take this as a new unspoken standard. Playing game like not texting back will train someone to be distant with you, because you're signaling to them also like, hey, I'm like kind of a distant, I don't text much. You kind of put up this appearance that you are self-sufficient and you are independent. If in the contrary, you want to be close to somebody, so you want closeness and intimacy, well, you're basically doing the opposite of what you should do, because you're kind of pretending to be the opposite of what you are. By acknowledging and accepting your needs, you will then be able to find someone that will fulfill those needs. But you first need to be able to acknowledge that your needs are legitimate. It all comes down to the choice to love yourself and value your feelings and opinion over others' opinions. And that is why you should focus on your needs and be assertive when you express them to others, because your needs are valid and also they're essential for your happiness. So whether your needs are important to someone else or not does not matter, because they're important to you, and that is the only thing that matters. Journaling can definitely be a good way to find out what your needs are, because by writing down your thoughts on paper, you will then be able to find out what you want and what you don't want in your life. After determining what your needs are, you can then start assessing the people that you're dating on their ability to meet your needs. Once you know what are your needs, it really helps you be confident in communicating them to others, and that is the first step to assertiveness. Being assertive helps you communicate to your partner or to the person that you are dating where are your limits and also what are your expectations. You might feel uncomfortable at first, but it is so much better to express your needs than to let things build up inside. So just let it out. In that process, say no to what is not serving you and be unapologetic about it. You don't owe any explanation to no one, so don't be afraid to say no. Use effective communication when expressing your wishes. Say what you want and be your authentic self. By expressing your wishes, you're looking out for yourself, and you're also avoiding to be strung along by someone else's agenda. Sometimes it is best to stop speculating and ask the person straight up what are their intentions. Have the guts to express your concern early on in the dating process. That can save you months of false hope. If the person that you communicate your needs with try to make you feel foolish or dismiss your concern away, that will definitely mean that he doesn't have your best interest in mind, and also that probably won't be able to meet your needs. It is better to know that sooner than later. That is why it is crucial to stay true to who you are and speak up. That will also help you choose the right partner that will be able to meet your needs. What's crucial about effective communication is your partner response about if they care about your well-being and have your best interest in mind. It all comes down on deciding that you're no longer willing to waste your precious time on someone who does not meet your needs. Now that we have seen the importance of acknowledging what our needs are, let's set some boundaries and standards. So what are your boundaries? Well, your boundaries are your preference, your deal breakers, and your desires. And your standards are who you are, what is acceptable to you, and what are your minimum expectations. So why it is important to set boundaries and standards? It is because manipulative individuals can sense when you are insecure, and they can take this opportunity to take advantage of you. That is why your boundaries and standards must be clear, and they must also be non-negotiables. So I'm gonna give you some type of categories of boundaries that exist. So you can set boundaries, for example, around the household. Usually that can be things like doing the dishes, it can be taking the kids at school, it can be who's making lunch or who's cooking, it can be anything related to other aspect of cleaning, it can be many things. You can also set some boundaries around the subject of conflict. So in the process, you can set basic rules on what is acceptable or not during conflict. For example, you cannot go to bed angry without saying good night or I love you. So this way, even though you're mad at your partner, you kind of set with your partner that no matter what, you always say good night or you always say I love you before going to bed. It can be also things like we don't scream at each other during conflict, and that is not acceptable to scream at each other. So there's a lot of boundaries you can set around conflict. Another category that you can set boundaries around is social interactions. So that includes anything in your social life. For example, if you need to have some time for yourself and that helps you to actually show up in a relationship in a better way, for example, you need 1 hour per day to be able to decompress and relax on your own. So then you can set a boundary with your partner, but also it is helpful to explain to him why you are setting that boundary. So you can say, hey, I'm setting this boundary because I know that having some personal time for myself will help me show up better, more energized, and refreshed in a relationship afterwards. Oftentimes, people will think like, okay, setting boundaries are to, it's restrictive or, it can be not well perceived. But ultimately, boundaries is to help the relationship function better. Okay, the last category that you can set boundaries around is your personal boundaries. So this is boundaries you set with yourself. For example, I personally decided that I'm gonna be putting some limits around alcohol because I realized that when I drink more than 2 glasses of alcohol on any given day, I end up not sleeping very well and feeling bad on the next day. That is why I set myself a boundary around alcohol to not drink more than 2 glasses of alcohol on any given day during the week because I need to be productive during the week. Self-boundaries are the most important boundaries there is. So make sure to set some standards for yourself and to hold yourself accountable. I personally like to journal, so I will write down in my journal my commitments that I intend to take, and then I will read them out loud once a week to remind me of the commitment that I decided to take. I think writing down your boundaries and standards is a good way to start. And if you're not sure what those are, you can think about what is making you feel out of alignment. The boundaries that we set for ourselves are some of the hardest to respect, but you need to think long-term and delay gratification. It is so easy to find momentary excuses on why you should let go of your boundary, but you will end up in the future feeling the consequences. For example, I set a boundary for myself to not buy sugar impulsively, but sometimes I find ways to manipulate my own mind in thinking that it is okay to cheat on my boundary. I will tell myself it's only this time, but surely there is some consequences that follows. I found that my self-discipline was worse as I started to cheat more and more often. I know that this example might not seem related to dating, but the boundaries that you set for yourself will then spill in other areas of your life, including dating and with any interactions that you have with others. You know that guilt can be something that holds you down in the process of respecting your own boundary. That is why it is important to prioritize yourself. And if that means that you need to cut contact with a friend or a group of friends for a period of time, that is perfectly okay. There's nothing to be guilty about. You're simply respecting your own boundary. To establish your standards and boundaries, think about what's the most important for you in your daily or weekly routine. It could be going to sleep at a certain hour, not drinking alcohol, or it could be doing exercise on a daily basis, but whatever it is, once you set them, stick with it. Things that make you feel pressured are a good indicator that you need to set a boundary for that particular thing. You can also make a list for boundaries for each group, for example, around household, like we talked earlier, personal boundaries, social boundaries, and then you evaluate out of 10 for each item, what is the importance, okay? So then you can prioritize the boundaries that stands out from the rest. In the process of setting boundaries, you can let someone know what you accept and what you do not accept, and what will happen if they overstep one of your boundaries. Setting a boundary can be as simple as letting know to your partner that you won't accept them raising their voice at you, or that you don't accept infidelity, so it is pretty straightforward. Then you can mention what is the consequence for that action, and that could be that you're leaving the relationship if one of those things happen. Even if you say nothing to your partner, you should know what are your standards and boundaries. Because if you let your partner disregard your boundaries, you will end up losing self-respect for yourself and also be unhappy within the relationship. Another tip that I have for you is that you should say what you mean every time. And what I mean by that is that you should not say to your partner that something is fine with you if you know that deep down it is bothering you. For example, your partner asks you if it's okay for him to skip out on your date night to hang out with some friend. Before answering, you should truly take the time to see if it's okay with you before answering him. If you say yes, you then need to honor your part of the agreement and be okay with it. That is why, if you know that it's gonna end up bothering you, it is better to voice it out. Starting to set boundaries early sets the tone for the rest of the relationship. So the sooner you're comfortable to communicate your standards and boundaries, the better. Setting a boundary with a new guy can be as simple as telling him, for example, that you do not have sex on the first few days. When communicating a new boundary to someone, tell them in a calm and respectful way what you're willing and not willing to tolerate. After that, you're leaving that person the choice to respect your boundaries or not. But make it clear that you're willing to walk away if that person does not respect your boundary. If you cannot remove that person from your life, you can always take other action, like reducing their access to you in certain areas. Of course, you cannot make someone respect your boundaries if they do not want to. If you notice that that person that you set a boundary with is continuously disregarding the limits that you have set with them, then it might be a sign that you need to cut all contact with them. You need to be able to say to someone, Here are my boundaries, take it or leave it. Once your standards and boundaries are set, it is entirely up to you to enforce them and take some actions. Taking action is the most important part, as you should be able to take the necessary measure if someone do not respect your boundaries. So, what kind of questions you can ask yourself to determine if someone is respecting your standards? You can think, when you express your need to your partner, do they take your concern seriously, or do they try to belittle you or make you feel foolish for raising them? You can also ask yourself, do they find ways to make you feel better, or are they only busy acting defensive? If he's only acting defensive, well, he is not taking your standards very seriously. If it is someone that you are dating, you can ask yourself, after a few dates, how much this person is capable of intimacy. You can also think, is he sending mixed signals, or is he genuinely interested in being close? And you can watch my first YouTube video if ever you want to know a little bit more about mixed signals and how to recognize them. I definitely talk in depth about that in the first video. The last thing that you can ask yourself is, can this person provide what I need in order for me to be happy? Okay, so those are all important questions that you can ask yourself, and that will definitely help you make the right decision in your life. So now that we have seen how to set standards and boundaries, I want to give you an example on how to enforce your value. So this example is going to be around a luxury brand, Louis Vuitton. Who doesn't know Louis Vuitton? The world's greatest brand enforce their value, and they do not allow the marketplace to tamper with their value because they know their worth. So, a high-end brand like Louis Vuitton does not give you the opportunity to determine their value, but they give you the opportunity to discern their value. Louis Vuitton is also not advertising to the general public. They're instead advertising to a specific and exclusive part of the market that can afford their value. They enforce their value by setting non-negotiable prices. So you cannot walk into a Louis Vuitton store and try to make them reduce their prices. The way they present themselves in the marketplace lets you know that they are high class, and they will let you walk out if the price is too high for you, but they will never ever lower their value. The same goes for dating. A high-value woman can identify that the man won't be able to meet her needs, and she will gladly let him walk away. If you signal to a man that you're willing to take whatever he is offering you, how can he value you? If that man walked into the Louis Vuitton store and got told by the salesman that the company was willing to accept any price that he offered, how much do you think that man will value that item? You might have guessed the answer, that this man will not value very much an item that he purchased for pennies. That is why the high-end brands set non-negotiable prices. So what is important is that you should not accept just any treatment. Setting your boundaries and standards will position you better to receive the quality of treatment that you deserve. You should be able to love yourself enough to respect your limits, because if you do not signal that you love yourself, he will simply not value you, and he will give you the bare minimum. Never lower your value and standards for a man. Louis Vuitton never goes on sales because they know their value, and you should know yours as well. Be that classy and luxurious woman that never settle for less than she deserves. At the end of the day, women that get the most out of men are women that set strong boundaries, and they communicate their word to someone through their non-negotiable standards. That is all I have for you today. So if you enjoy my content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also share with others so that they can also see my content. It helps my channel grow as well. So that is all. See you next time.